Hi there, this is Patrick Verdonck, and welcome to another episode of Talks at Rhineland. Today, I'm very happy to be joined by Rich Weihe, a Managing Director at Rosemawr Sustainable Infrastructure Management. Rich, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Patrick. Good to be here.
So, Rich, as always, I'd like to start off with asking you to tell the viewers a little bit about your background, what you've done in your career to date, and what you're currently focused on at Rosemawr.
Sure. So I actually was a geology major in undergrad, and the summer after my sophomore year, I worked at a gold mine, an open pit gold mine in Nevada. And I, at the time, had planned to use my geology degree to go into resource extraction industries.
Mm-hmm.
And the experience was really impactful. I gained a lot of respect and admiration for the mining business, but I also saw what it was doing just in terms of taking down mountain ranges. And so from that, I came back with the mindset of I still want to go into a career where I can use my background, but for environmental benefits. So that got me interested more in. I went into environmental consulting engineering. I went to graduate school for geology, where I studied climate change and the geologic record, which it's kind of come full circle because I work now in renewable energy finance, which has some certainly some
Sure.
benefits to that issue. And after grad school, I was working in environmental consulting engineering. Many of my clients were energy focused, and I became very interested in the overlap of environmental issues with the energy industry. I mean, for us to go forward as an economy, we need to really kind of focus on environmental issues along with progress. Business creates issues for the environment, and we need to solve those as we go forward. And so that got me interested in. I went to business school, and it got me interested in the overlap, which really was the energy sector and renewable power. So after grad school, I had a few offers, and I chose a company called Enron. You might have heard of it. And I was there for before and after the fall of the company, but it gave me a really good entree, at least initially, into renewables. And really, since the early 2000s, I've been in the renewable sector in some shape or form. Today, I work at Rosemawr Management within a group within Rosemawr, the Rosemawr Sustainable Infrastructure team, that focuses on making equity and debt investments in sustainable infrastructure. So that's where I am today.
Great. That's very exciting. It's an interesting career going from mining into renewables and seeing some of the commonality between what you did back then and what you're doing today. That's really interesting. So, Rich, one of the things that's interesting is the perch you sit on today at Rosemawr offers you, I think, a perspective and also some opportunities that are not that common in the industry, especially being a private capital, private credit provider gives you a lot of flexibility. And I know you guys really use that flexibility to come up with some interesting structures that maybe other lenders can't. Can you tell us a little bit about structures that you can offer developers and projects that might be different from other capital providers and that really set you apart?
Sure. So the origins of Rosemawr Management, which began in 2008, are really in municipal bonds and long-term credit type structures. And when we look at sustainable infrastructure, whether it be wind or solar, we are looking at things from a long-term perspective, and that can either be from debt or equity.
Yeah.
And that gives us a great deal of flexibility, because when we're speaking with a developer that's interested in monetizing the development assets right away, we can acquire those as long-term equity investors. Conversely, there's a growing group or sub segment within the development industry that where developers they're aspiring to be IPPs or to kind of manage their own destiny as it relates to the assets that they're developing. And in those cases, we can provide a unitranche type structure where the developer can effectively own all interest in the project, and we can potentially provide really all of the funding for the capital costs And with that, we'll have a long-term, say, 20-year plus loan. So because we're flexible from the capital stack, it allows us to really be flexible with the developers and kind of meet what their needs are.
That's great. Are there any sectors that you guys are interested in outside of solar, storage, the usual stuff? Is there anything that's a little bit more sort of further left field that's newer that you guys say, you know what, that's something we're keeping an eye on. Maybe we can't fund it today, but in a few years, that's something we'd like to get into?
Sure. One area that we've had some interest in, which isn't necessarily new, but there seems to be in the industry sometimes a little less focus on it. Certainly we hear a lot about new electron generating kind of facilities being put out there as opposed to electricity savings. So we're looking at a number of commercial scale energy efficiency type project opportunities. We've even looked at geothermal, not from a power perspective necessarily, but from geothermal heating and cooling on a commercial basis. So we're looking at those things, and we'll continue to.
That's great. Well, that's very interesting. Must be a lot of interesting things that pass your desk on a weekly basis. Well, with that, Rich, I wanted to ask you a question that I ask all the participants in the program. And that question is, if you look back on your career and you were to have to give advice to yourself at the age of 20, 22, 23, it could be to yourself, it could be to a cousin or a friend today, knowing what you know and having had all these experiences, what advice would you give to yourself to somebody starting out, a career in energy transition?
Yeah, sure. First, I would say be open to taking risk, to have less of a focus on being perfect and expect to make mistakes. But because you're going to make mistakes if you're taking risk. And so I think to be less risk averse and to be open to pushing yourself towards doing things that you might be uncomfortable with. And for someone, let's say that's an outstanding modeler, that might mean taking a public speaking class. For someone that's an outstanding salesman, that might be working in an area where they may want to improve upon or could help their sales process, but might be challenging. So I think taking risks absolutely would be one. The second would be to build up a network of peers and mentors. And these are people that you can rely on and ask help from and provide advice to going forward. And it's kind of like it's about you can give and you can also receive in that process. And it's something that as you go through your career, it's a great thing to have and to continue to nourish.
Yeah.
I'd say otherwise, just stay curious. I think in the energy transition economy, it's, as you know, Patrick, it's constantly changing. It's constantly in a state of flux. And so we have to continue to be in a position to learn. And so I think staying curious and taking an interest in certain aspects of the marketplace can provide for perspectives that can make some opportunities for yourself as you go forward.
That's great. Well, those are very, very sage words of advice, Rich. I much appreciate that. It's interesting, a lot of the senior folks I've had on the program really highlight curiosity and taking risk as some of the key attributes. Really trying to make the most of the richness of experiences you can get, trying them out, and staying open to new things that come your way. So I think that's very good advice, and I think it's very wise. Well, with that, thank you so much. I much appreciate having you on, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Thanks, Patrick. Really appreciate being here and look forward to being in touch as well.